Welcome to the Alex Urbina radio show. I'm your host, joined weekly in studio with Ellen Tunick. Today is episode 6 of a series called Helping You Reach Your Full Potential. This is a show about life coaching, and the show is about helping you create maximum value for yourself from a life coach or from the simple fact of being willing to be open to all possibilities. And in a few moments, we're going to do a one-on-one live coaching session with this beautiful lady sitting next to me, Mrs. Ellen Tunick. But before we go into a coaching session, I want to tee up how to create maximum value for yourself in a coaching session.
Okay.
So the first thing is you got to be willing to be what I call coachable. And to be coachable, there's a couple of distinctions I want to go over. The first thing is that you really have to be open-minded. If you're not open to all possibilities, at least that it is possible, then you're really not open to have the kind of breakthrough that you need to have to be able to see something new, to be able to have the possibility that the result can be attained. So you really have to be open to the possibility. You don't necessarily have to agree with what my coaching is or how I see it or the possibility that I'm opening up. You just got to be willing to be open to seeing it. And that's your starting point. If you're open to seeing it, it just might happen that whether it's now or tomorrow or a week from now or 6 months from now, you just might be able to see it someday. So be open to all possibilities. Then you got to really have a higher sense of self-awareness. You have to really be willing to look at yourself and reflect and check in with yourself. And what I mean by that, sometimes those words are like buzzwords, but what I mean by checking in with yourself is, asking yourself certain questions like, why am I like this? What am I feeling? What could I be afraid of? So it's being self-aware is more about being in the questioning certain things. Why did I choose that? Where was I choosing from? What was the main motive of that choice that I made? So it's more about reflecting back on what choices you made, what thoughts you had, where were you choosing from, where did the thought come from? So it's really about being self-reflective and looking in at yourself. And then the last thing is that you'd have to be willing to surrender some of the old beliefs that you have, some old conditioning from maybe the way that you were grown up in certain homes or the things that you were taught by your parents. It could even be old conditioning and limiting beliefs based on your religion or your culture or your experience growing up in a certain environment. So you got to be willing to surrender some of those things such that it opens up a space for you to now see a new possibility.
That's like chipping away at concrete.
It is. However, if you don't have a sledgehammer, you could still chip away concrete with a butter knife. It just takes a little.
It takes longer.
It takes, yeah. It's like, how do you eat a whole elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time, right? How do you break out of a prison? Chipping away one little piece of the wall at a time. And so it's possible. It just, you have to be willing to allow yourself to go through each stage of the process of having what's called a breakthrough. So I'm excited today because you have volunteered to get in the hot seat and have a coaching session with me. And hopefully today we can open up some possibilities, not only for you, but for me as well. I learned so much from all my clients.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the reason why is because it's to me, I look at it like an old, like a jam session between 2 or 3 musicians that just get in a room and they pick up their instrument and they allow themselves to kind of be creative. Yeah, you get creative with other possibilities of how to shift your perspective in such a powerful way that you're able to see things that you couldn't see before.
Well, you're creating, whether it's on your guitar or in your life, you create.
That's right. So together, we're going to create some possibilities to have you either have some aha moments, some new realizations, or possibly some breakthroughs for you so you can take into your life and start practicing.
I like breakthroughs.
So what I've asked you to do is to bring specific questions as a starting point in your coaching session. Okay. And if you've ever been in a one-on-one with me, I tell all my clients, bring questions, because by you asking a question is a starting point for me to know where you are based on the question you asked. But by asking a question, it always lets me know where to meet you at so that I can meet you at that spot and then kind of take you down the road rather than you coming to me and then me assuming that I know what your next breakthrough
Right.
is.
The interesting part when you said, okay, write down your questions. And so I sat and just started to write. And what was so interesting to me was after looking at what I wrote, it was like, huh, that's really interesting that those are the things that obviously are on your mind, and unaware that they were on my mind until I started writing.
And you know what's amazing is that a lot of times with my clients, I'll ask them to sit down and think of some questions to ask in their coaching session. And probably 8 times out of 10, people struggle with even trying to find a question or come up with a question to even start the coaching session. And for me, what I've realized is that our ego is so big at times that it doesn't want to be wrong about how to live your own life. And so our ego gets in the way sometimes and doesn't want you to try to come up with a question to ask to get help or assistance or coaching or mentoring or therapy or whatever it is, because our ego is so invested in being the expert of our own life. And that's how we can get stuck in thinking that we know it all. However, we're suffering because we're not creating the results that we say that we
Right.
really want.
I couldn't stop writing.
Okay, awesome. I love that. That means you are coachable and you're open and
Okay.
hungry and ready to
Hungry.
learn.
So, first question.
Yes.
What I really want to understand is we talk a lot about authenticity. I don't know, how do you know if you're being authentic? What would happen? I mean, I don't know about my own authenticity. Is it the same as being honest? I mean, what is it?
It's a great question. So I can only answer this based on my own experience of discovering my own authentic self. And it's not a one-time process. It's a continuing process over and over, every day, all day long, for days, weeks, months, years. But the very first time that I discovered my authentic self was in the process of discovering my unauthentic self. So the very first time that I got the experience of realizing and seeing my ego and how fake I was and the things that I was pretending to be and all of the pretending not to know and all the games that my ego was playing, I didn't know I was doing any of that. I was totally unaware of it. It was just a persona that I had taken on at a certain age, whether it was 5 or 7 or 9. You got to remember that when we're little kids, we're purely authentic. We're not trying to be anyone specific. We're not trying to impress anyone. When we're 3 and 4 years old, we're just purely authentic. We're just being our authentic selves.
Yeah, but then we get pushback and criticism.
Exactly.
And so we start to shift.
We start putting up these walls and hiding behind these masks. And we start to portray ourselves as a certain entity or a certain character or persona.
That's what they want of me, so that's who I will be.
Well, I don't know if anyone necessarily wants you to be that. You just assume that.
The perception.
That's the perception that you make. And so then your ego goes, move over, kid. I'm going to help protect you and keep you safe. And we're going to create this character so that we're accepted and liked and approved of. And especially little kids, they know this when they go to school for the very first time. Let's say they're in the 1st grade or the 2nd grade. And some of the friends that they want to fit in, those friends make fun of them. They now slowly start to alter their authentic self and start to create this certain persona.
Because we want to fit in.
You want to fit in.
Yeah.
And so we don't realize that this is happening. This is all happening unconsciously. And that little 4 or 5-year-old, it turns into a 9-year-old to a 12-year-old to a 16-year-old. Now we're 16, 17 years old, and we're just this fake, authentic person trying to be something that we're not. But we don't know that this is happening until you have a profound awakening and actually see your inauthentic self. When you spot your ego, you get so, and I'm only speaking from experience. When I saw my own ego for the very first time at 23 years old, I was disgusted. I actually broke down in tears.
Wow.
And thinking about it now, I realize that that's not the guy that's internally, that's in my spirit, in my soul,
In your heart.
in my heart. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, that can't be the guy that I'm portraying to be. That's not who I really am. And when you have that aha moment, you get feverishly excited or scared, because it can happen two ways.
I think you might even get both.
And I got really excited to figure out how to tear all of that mechanism down.
See, and I'd be scared. Stuff like that would scare me.
And it was scary, and it is scary. However, in that moment, I realized that if I'm being this I'm portraying myself in a certain way with these masks and these guards up, and not allowing myself just to live this life of freedom and joy and passion and excitement, and just be this playful little kid that I've always been, then I'm really not living my life to my fullest potential. And this is what really got me the most, was that if I'm not being that little kid and not being authentic like that, then I'm robbing my wife from the authentic self that I can be. I'm robbing my kids from this beautiful man that can love them and champion them and be who I need to be for them. So I didn't just do it for me. I did it for my family. I did it for the commitment that I made to the world to make a difference. I knew that if I wanted to make a difference, I had to change myself. I had to embark on this journey, and I had to decide that I got to do this work for myself, for my vision, for my purpose.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm specifically answering your question.
Yeah, no, you
did. Let me frame it up for the people that are listening. You don't know that you're not being authentic if you haven't, I really, truly, profoundly identified your inauthentic self. So the way that I would describe or invite somebody, if they really want to embark on this journey of discovering this authentic self, is to start being an expert at discovering your inauthentic self. Learn everything about your ego. Discover your ego. Be an expert at pointing out your ego every time he or she shows up to mask yourself or to hide yourself or to pretend to be something that you're not. Call yourself out. Call your ego out every time it wants to show up. And a little bit of time, that game starts to shut down and authenticity starts to emerge from that place.
I am sure that ego for a woman is different than ego for a man, or is ego just ego?
Yeah, ego's ego.
Okay.
It looks differently.
It looks different.
It shows up from the outside when we're
different.
watching it. Yeah.
Okay, because that's an aha moment for me right there, is to check yourself when your ego shows up. And my ego, when it shows up, and it shows up all the time, is like this feeling of protection. That when I show up and I present this ego, I'm protecting something. I don't necessarily know what it is, but I know it's a protection device.
Absolutely. So I'll give you an example. So a few minutes ago, I got vulnerable. My ego did not want me to show that. So it wanted, naturally, its instinct was to come in and shut all those emotions down. I go, no, we're not going to go there. And I had to consciously say, go take a back seat. You don't run the show. This little loving kid with a huge heart who cares about people and wants to live his life out of freedom and joy and passion, he runs the show. And so I had
just expressing.
And I had to trust myself in expressing whatever comes up, because that's what's authentic.
Yeah.
The ego.
And I wanted to just hug him. I tell him it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And so I'm painting a picture for you about when ego wants to jump in, and its job is to protect us.
Okay.
The ego is always jumping in to protect you. It doesn't want you to feel pain. It doesn't want you to show your emotions. It doesn't want you to reveal yourself. It doesn't want you to be authentic. Its job is to have you not be authentic, because then you're exposing yourself. You're risking.
And then we go back to that whole vulnerability
That's right.
thing.
You're risking rejection. You're risking your heart getting hurt. That's why when ego is involved in your relationships, you can't really get into creating deep, meaningful, connected relationships because ego's job is always trying to not have that happen.
Okay. So do you, in your journey, do you always know when ego shows up, or is it in, if you look back and go, oh, okay, that was my ego, or for you,
Both.
does it come up right away now?
It's both.
Okay.
It's still, I'm able to catch some of the times when it's coming up and then put it in check. There's other times that it's afterwards that I'm driving home and I'm going, ooh. I probably should have. Yeah. But
Okay.
that's the journey. That's what's so beautiful about it. Is that sometimes I'm able to catch it, sometimes it's in hindsight, but the more that I'm practicing this awareness, I'm able to catch ego in the moment more often because it's like it's a practice for me. It's a constant practice where I'm aware of it.
Otherwise it won't happen. But as we're talking about this, I know just from the discussion right now that my ego and how it shows up in my life and my relationship with my husband has limited me from that real intimate, soulful relationship. I'm always like on guard, making sure everything is okay, that's my job, blah, 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 blah. But just listening to you, I have to give myself permission not to have to do that everything is going to be okay. It's not my responsibility to make sure everything goes along properly and that everybody is okay. You and I've talked about this so many times that my upbringing, obviously, the chipping away at my concrete is going to be everybody can take care of themselves. It's not my sole responsibility. That is a very challenging thing for me. I want to be able to release that because it does hold me back. And I'd love to be able to release that.
So let me ask you now the question that you asked me. So I'm going to throw it back at you. Now hearing the discussion and having this dialogue, how do you know what your authentic self looks like or feels like?
I don't know what my authentic self is, but I do know the emotions that I have put out there in pretense almost. That's what I'm aware of. The authentic self is just a nice, kind person that loves people and hopes that everybody is loving and kind to everybody else. I mean, that's the extent of it. It's not real complicated.
So how do you discover the authentic self?
By allowing myself to feel the love and express the love without putting up the wall, that the ego wall that says, okay, don't do that. You have to do this now. Everything's going to be okay. I'll make sure that happens. Somehow I have to evolve and release what I believed was this requirement of me.
Perfect. Now I'm just going to piggyback on it because there were some specific things that I had said about discovering your authentic self that you missed out. And when I re-say it, you're going to go, oh, yeah. So the process of discovering your authentic self is by focusing and practicing the art of discovering your inauthentic self and being an expert at finding and figuring out when your ego shows up.
Oh, yeah.
And learning how to dismantle that, shutting that ego down more often every day that you live your life. So when you and your husband are, let's say you're in a disagreement and the disagreement now starts to go into a different road where you're either defending yourself or you're noticing that you're a little heated. In that moment, you catch yourself and you see the ego and you go, oh my God, there she is.
Yeah, in all her glory.
Now just you identifying that ego popped out and now wants to protect you and defend you. Just you catching yourself and seeing it, being aware of it is the starting point of you shutting it down a little bit at a time. You have to learn how to expose the ego when it wants to come in and push and defend and argue and all that. It's got its own games. It's got its own mechanism. So you have to practice consciously catching it and then telling it, go sit in the corner. I'm going to have a loving debate with my husband in a healthy way. You don't need to come in and defend me and throw jabs and do all the things that you like to do.
And from your help, obviously, we've evolved. We don't really do that much. But I still have this ego that in a scenario like that, I need to be right.
That's the ego's main job, is to have you be right. Listen, we got to take a short break. When we get back, hopefully we can take this coaching session to a whole nother level. Stay tuned for more of the Alex Urbina radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly, or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, SCV.
This is a Rita's Daybreak. There's a huge crowd at Rita's. With so many amazing flavors, every day's a treat. Let's see what folks are celebrating.
I lost my first tooth.
No more training wheels.
My dog photo got 37 likes.
3 kids, 3 activities, 0 meltdowns. There you have it. Layer it, blend it, or drink it with Italian ice and creamy custard. So many reasons to celebrate at Rita's. This has been a Rita's Daybreak.
Rita's.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show. I'm your host, Alex Urbina, an advanced life coach specialist, hanging out with my co-host, Ellen Tunick, who has generously volunteered to be in the hot seat to be coached by yours truly.
Anytime.
And let's re-tee up for the listener. So when we started the show, I asked you to ask some questions to help meet you where you're at, to open up some possibilities for you to gain new insight on your own life and the things that you want to learn and develop and grow and evolve in, so that you can create better relationships, deeper, meaningful relationships, and then just create overall success in all areas of your life, not just in specific areas, but really learn how to master you, right? And I think your question, the first question was, how do I know what the authentic self looks like? And we started this very powerful discussion about what ego looks like, and how do we distinguish ego versus your authentic self? And it was a great discussion.
Yes, it
I
was.
hope that you were able to create some little
learned
golden nuggets from that.
My golden nugget from that is I have to really understand what my unauthentic self is and what that looks like and when it appears.
Nice. Now, the more you catch it and the more you are seeing it and the more you're calling yourself out on it, then the game slowly starts to shut down. You start shutting down that whole racket that your ego is trying to do. Now, I don't want people to think that ego is bad. Because
it has its place.
It has its place. It has its purpose, and it's actually designed to protect us from harm. Its job is to remind us that, there's a tree falling, move out the way of that tree. Or, hey, you parked, a couple blocks away, don't go down that dark alley because, it doesn't feel right. Go take your family down the lighted area.
People don't think that that's ego.
I know. That's what
they do not relate.
I know.
Those things with ego.
But that's what ego's job is. It's it's to protect us and keep us alive
keep us safe.
Keep us alive one more minute so I can keep living my life. It's designed to protect you. However, in relationships, it's doing its job, which it's protecting you from being vulnerable and connecting and experiencing your heart, their heart. And it's actually getting in the way and it's sabotaging this deep, meaningful relationship that you want to create with the people you say you love the most.
Yes, absolutely.
So in relationships, you got to learn how to tell it, to take a back seat and I'll let you know when I need you.
Yeah, go sit in the corner.
Yeah, yeah. And that takes a conscious awareness.
And
it
practice, a
takes
lot of
practice.
practice.
Absolutely.
All of this takes practice.
For sure.
But that is something that I am really going to commit myself to, is really finding out what is my unauthentic self. And we'll start there.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I'm excited. So, you want another question?
Yes.
Okay.
What's your second question?
My second question is, I'm going to give you an actual real case scenario. My birthday was last month. And my sister and I don't live that close. And when we were little, we were very, very close. You know, ever since my parents died, you know, she's kind of gone a different route. I've kind of gone a different route. But we always stay connected and, you know, loving and kind. But in the last 6 months, we haven't, like, picked up the phone and talked to each other. So I did get a call from her, like, 3 months ago saying, I miss you. I don't understand why we don't talk as much. I said, I will take responsibility. I think about it all the time, and I don't do it. So we're going to really work on that. So, you know, everything gets in the way. So my birthday comes up. She sends me a message in Messenger that says, happy birthday, with a little funny thing. I sent back, thank you. She never called me. She never sent a card. There was nothing. So in the last month, I'm like, what do I do with this? And so it's been bothering me. And so I was hanging out with some people, and I thought, I'm going to throw it out there, see what they say. And I got all sorts of different things. One said, not worth it. Don't go there. Another one said, tell her how you feel. You know, another one said, well, you know, it's going to stir things up. And so my question is, when you feel that, when you are upset, when something has happened, what I ended up doing is not listening to any of them. And I called her for her anniversary and said to her, I really missed not talking to you on my birthday. And I guess I was running the risk of her getting very defensive and this, that, and the other thing. When do you know what the right thing to do is in situations like that? I'm not real confident there. I tend to go under the radar and go, oh, whatever.
So the question you're asking is, when do you know when the right thing to do is?
Yeah, it's like, when do you know when to actually pick up a phone and have a conversation with somebody about that? I mean, I could ignore it. It would go away. But somehow I didn't want to ignore it completely, even though most people were telling me, oh, it's not worth it.
Okay, so I'm going to explain something that I'm noticing in that story that you shared that I want to point out.
Please.
As you shared that story, it sounded a little bit of half victim perspective and a little bit of responsible perspective. So let me open up another possibility for you. We'll try it on.
Okay.
Could it be possible that you take 100% responsibility for all of your relationships?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you take 100%,
let's just start there.
So if you take 100% responsibility for all of your relationships, then there is no, they should call me. Why didn't they call me? I'm a little sad that they didn't reach out to me. There's no expectation on other people. If you wanted to hear your sister's voice on your birthday, you pick up the phone and go, hey, sis, I just want to let you know I miss you. It's my birthday today, and I love you. And then she goes, oh, my God, you're right. Happy birthday. Like, you got to start deciding that your experiences are driven by you, and stop waiting for other people to love you enough or to consider you enough or to want to spend time with you or to want to call you and wish you a happy birthday. Like, start taking 100% accountability for all of your relationships. That's where the power is. Because if not, you'll just subconsciously slip into 100% of being the victim,
victim.
and wondering why people aren't giving you what you need and what you think they should be doing and pleasing you and doing for you.
And even in doing that, and talking to her and, picking up the phone and saying, hey, it's my birthday. I wanted to hear your voice. Love you, blah, blah, blah. Even in that scenario, I can't set up any expectation of a response back. It's just what I need at that moment. I guess that's a question.
So rephrase the question.
So if I were to have done what you suggested, that I wanted to hear from my sister, so I need to be responsible for that. Pick up the phone. Hey, hey sis, I'm really missing you. I love you. It's my birthday. Even though I can absolutely do that, is there an expectation of what she's going to respond?
Why would there be?
I don't know.
What's the need to have an expectation? It's like saying,
I want her to say, "Oh, I love you and miss you too."
Exactly. Which opens up now the possibility that we as human beings, we love conditionally, not unconditionally.
Ah.
So have you ever said to somebody, "You know what? I love you." And the next thing in the silence is you're waiting for someone to go, "I love you too."
Well,
and when they don't, now the ego comes in and goes, "How come they didn't say they love you back? What's going on?" Right?
Yes.
Instead of when I say I love you, I'm letting you know I love you with no strings attached, and I don't care what.
Because that's just what I want
exactly.
to tell you.
It's a gift that I'm giving you, and whether you use it or not, or give it back to me, or pay it back or not, it doesn't matter. I'm choosing to give you this I love you unconditionally.
This is a big deal for me.
Okay, good.
This is a big deal for me because obviously in just listening to this dialogue, I have spent a great portion of my life with expectations of responses. My first husband, we'd been dating. We were madly in love, and he was going away for Christmas. And I remember standing there saying goodbye to him. This is like ingrained in my head. And I'm kind of waiting for him to say, "Oh, I'm going to miss you so much." So I finally said to him, "I'm really going to miss you." And he looked at me, shaking his head. And I looked at him and I said, "Aren't you going to miss me?" He goes, "I don't know. I'm not gone yet." And it was like, whoa. But it's that kind of thing.
So let me tell you where that comes from. When we have expectations of having somebody either reciprocate back to us something that we're giving, or if I, say, "Hey, I'm going to miss you," or waiting for someone to say, "I miss you too," there's this empty void inside of us, these unresolved issues, these insecurities that we have as human beings that we haven't cleaned up yet. We haven't healed. We haven't overcome. And so we have this hole inside of us that we need other people to fill. So when I say, "Hey, I miss you," I have this hole inside that needs you to say, "I miss you too." As soon as you hear that, you go, "Ah."
Yes, it's like this relief that flows over
It's
you.
a validation that
Yes.
you're needed. It's a validation that somebody in this planet
Is thinking about
misses
me.
you and loves you and appreciates you and all that. So you got to remember, we have insecurities that we're unaware of. And as long as we don't work on those insecurities, we're needy of other people's approval, love, attention, validation, all of those things. So I want to paint that picture as a possibility that in some of your insecurities, you're expecting it to come back to you.
Well, expecting, but also wanting, needing. I'll be totally honest.
Yeah,
I'm obviously I need that response. Had she called me or even said, I would have gone, "Oh, okay, I'm okay now."
And when you really work on your self-love and self-worth and really create an amazing and extraordinary relationship with yourself, you're so filled up, you're so full that there's no room inside of your context to be needing somebody to validate you anymore.
That is the most exciting thing I think I could possibly hear. It's like, I still have more time on this earth. I am going to get there. I want to get there. I've always wanted to get there, but never really knew how to get there. I could see it in other people and go, wow, that's so cool.
So that's the starting point, is you going, I want that. That's a starting point.
I want that.
That's a starting point for everything in your life, is seeing it, recognizing it, and then believing that it's possible for you, and then deciding, I want that, and then embark on a journey to figure out how to, one, complete your past, because you're going to have to do some healing. You got to complete all that stuff, make amends with it, accept it, and then start learning how to fill up your own bucket.
Yes.
And loving yourself and accepting yourself and validating your own self-worth such that your bucket is overflowing and there's no room to need.
You're not looking anywhere else.
There's no room in your bucket to need someone else to fulfill it.
Yeah.
Because you're overflowing with it. You have so much that you're looking for other people's buckets to go, here,
have a little of mine.
Yeah, bring your bucket over so I can help fulfill yours.
Yes. You know, as young people, we are not taught how to internally validate. We are taught that we're validated from external events. And I think that's such a sad thing.
I don't know if we're directly being taught that, but indirectly we're being taught.
Somehow that happens.
Especially if we're growing up and we're watching, you know, like I have this funny thing about movies, and there's this movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Tom Cruise, and I don't remember the
money.
Show Me the Money.
Show me
remember the scene?
Yeah.
Show me, okay,
I saw the movie.
Jerry Maguire, I believe.
Yes,
right?
correct.
And there's a scene where Tom Cruise goes to his girlfriend's house and he says, "You validate me." And all the women, when they watch that scene, they go, "Ah." And what it's implying is that I'm not whole and complete, and whatever it is that you're giving me validates me. No, I think he says, "You complete me," I think is the line.
I was going to say, I think it's "you complete me."
You complete me. Which means that,
which is often said.
which I know, but it's part of our conditioning. So if you're a little 16-year-old girl and you go, I'm now looking for somebody to complete me, which implies that you're not whole and complete, which means that you're looking now. So now relationships means that I got to find my better half to help complete me. And now the rest of my life, being married to my husband or my wife, I'm always looking for them to fill my bucket up because there's half of me that's missing, and you complete me. The problem with that is the minute your husband or wife doesn't give you what you need, then all of a sudden now there's a problem. Or when it's not enough anymore, you now decide, well, I got to now go find it from someone else. So it means that you're in relationships out of a need. You're dependent on the other person to complete you. So a healthy relationship is somebody who completes themselves and fills their own bucket from within so that they're whole and complete. And then you inspire and empower your husband or your wife to fill their own bucket so they're whole and complete. And imagine having two whole and complete human beings in love with each other.
Pretty powerful.
There's no neediness from each other. I don't need anything from you. So therefore I'm freed up.
I just want to be with you.
I'm freed up to just share my life.
Yeah.
So a beautiful, extraordinary relationship is about two human beings that are whole and complete. And all they do is they've decided or made an agreement that they just need their life to share with each other. So the whole experience and the whole relationship is all about sharing, which I know this sounds cheesy, but it's a great plug for my next relationship workshop in August. This is all about what we're going to be talking about in that course, is all about how to create extraordinary relationships. But I wanted to paint that picture for the listeners and for you, and it's another reminder because we did this at your relationship workshop you took a couple years ago. And it's just reiterating that an extraordinary relationship is two healthy, whole, and complete human beings that have decided to just share their lives together. But what most of us do when we're unconscious and we're young and we fall in love with somebody in 19 or 22 or whatever it is that we're not whole and complete.
No.
We're two halves. And we find the other half that we think is our missing piece.
Okay, it's all good now.
Yes. But now we don't realize that now my half and your half becomes one, but now we're dependent on each other. So we're in a codependent relationship.
Yes.
until now we've been married 20, 30 years, and you're not giving me what you used to give me anymore. And then all of a sudden now, because you're not giving to me and you're not giving to me what I need, we now have decided to part ways. And this is heartbreaking for me, because I coach a lot of couples that get to a certain point where they're ready to throw in the towel because they haven't realized that they started this relationship codependent. And to help them now embark on this journey to fill their own buckets up is very challenging at that point.
Yeah, I'm just inspired by the whole prospect of learning how to love myself, learning to be able to say with pride, I'm loving, I'm amazing. I mean, this is just not something that.
Yes, you are, by the way.
Yeah.
No, seriously. In the beginning of the journey, as we declare those things, we actually need other people to validate that.
Why is it embarrassing to me?
Because you're not used to it.
Yeah.
because all of your conditioning, right?
Yes.
Years and years of conditioning is you've been told that by you being like that, how do you show up? Arrogant.
Growing up,
pompous.
My parents' motto always was, you think of others before you think of yourself.
And if you think of yourself first, then what?
Then you're, your ego, you're an egotist, you're selfish,
That's right.
There's a litany of,
That's right.
But I can remember that
and
so
all
specifically.
All of that conditioning that you were raised with or it was instilled upon you, all of that conditioning is a lower level consciousness. Higher level of consciousness, where you get into spirituality, is that you're supposed to love yourself more than anybody.
That's concept.
Beautiful concept.
It is a beautiful concept.
Now, how do I get to the stage where I get to love myself unconditionally and I get to be my biggest champion, my biggest cheerleader? I just got off a very powerful 2-day training with these kids, 7 to 9.
Wow. Oh,
and
7 to 9.
It was an amazing experience because for 48 hours, me and my team got to get in this room and just remind them how beautiful they are. Remind them that they have a purpose. They were born with a purpose and that there's a gift in each side of them. And their job this lifetime is to discover that gift and find the love for themselves such that they're able to give that love and share it with the world. And you should see their faces.
It just light up.
Oh my God. It's like they're going, their knees shaking like, yes, yes. It's almost, they can't articulate themselves,
right.
But it's almost like, yes, like we've been knowing this.
And now someone has allowed us to accept it.
Well, the last 48 hours is an opportunity for me to remind them of what they already know, what their spirit already knows about itself. It was just an opportunity to have a human being to remind them that, yes, this is my journey, is to love myself and accept myself fully so that I can remind others that they too are the light and they too are love and they too can love themselves unconditionally as I have decided for myself.
Wow.
On that note, we're going to take a break. Quick little break. We'll be back. Stay tuned for more of the Alex Urbina radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Life's not meant to feel complacent. It's meant to make you feel alive. The youth ministry at the Church on the Way Santa Clarita believes that students can belong to the group where we will help them believe they have a purpose in Christ and become all that He has created them to be. We want to see God's power come alive in our generation. We love meeting new people, so come hang out with us. Doors open at 6 p.m. and service starts at 7 every Wednesday night. For more information about the Church on the Way Santa Clarita, including service times and what's happening through the end of the year, visit TCOTWSC.org.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Koalas at the zoo, they're waiting for you at the Santa Barbara Zoo. Koalas at the zoo, they're at the zoo, so fuzzy and cute.
Come visit Edmund and Thackeray, the new koalas at the Santa Barbara Zoo today.
Koalas at the zoo.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show. Today we're going to go over some of the aha moments, the realizations, and or some of the breakthroughs that you and I have had in the last 45 minutes of this show, you know, doing some coaching, opening up some possibilities. You asked two very powerful questions that I'm hoping that not only for you and for me, but as listeners are listening, they're going, oh my God, like I need to do that, or I should be doing that,
I'm certainly
or
not
I'm doing
the only
that,
one.
or even just affirming, like, hey, I'm on that path, and creating value for people. That's what I want the show to be about, is creating value for people to keep staying on that journey of being aware and conscious and growing. You know, I think at a certain
Don't
point
give up.
we stop growing, we stop learning. At a certain point as human beings, we become the expert of ourselves rather than continuing to be the student. And that's what I love about coaching and getting in these conversations, because we're just two students, you know, back at the dorm talking about what's next for us and dreaming and being creative.
Therein lies the excitement of the journey.
Yeah. So let's go over some of the aha moments, some of the breakthroughs, the realizations.
Okay.
What are some of the takeaways?
Well, there were several, but I think that we've been talking in the past about being present in your own life, something that I'm trying to work hard on. But as I was writing down all these questions, I couldn't stop writing. And so my aha moment was, well, guess what? You obviously have not been present in your own life, because you are amazed at the fact that all this was on your mind. So
once you got present and started to self-reflect, all this stuff started to come up for you.
yes.
And were you not able to notice that in real time when
No.
when you're living your life?
No.
So
No.
so it's a great opportunity for you to, every day you should be stopping and just spending a little bit of time. That's why we use journals a lot of times.
And
in
that
our
was
lives.
my next thing.
Yeah.
Was I love to write. I am going to write, because there's a stream of consciousness that happens.
Beautiful.
So
Especially, you know, sometimes like, you know, I tell a lot of my clients, at the end of your night, you should create a practice where you wind down. You know, I think like we're so busy in our lives that we just go from being busy all day long to just we just knock out.
go from busy and awake to sleep.
Yeah, and I have a lot of clients that tell me, you know, Alex, I struggle a lot with sleep. I can't sleep. And then I ask them, I go, do you have a process where you slowly start to shut down your body and your mind, and you know, do you close shop? And they're like, no, I work, or I'm busy being a mom or dad, all the way to the point where I just knock out. But then I can't sleep because I'm wired. And then once I introduced the possibility of creating 15 minutes or 20 minutes as an actual process to slowly shut down, people start sleeping like a baby. So whether it's prayer or meditation or opening up your notebook and just writing, or even reading at the end of the night, just, you know, a page or two, you slowly give yourself permission to shut down.
I want to write. I want to write about what I felt during that day, what my experiences were.
I think you're going to find that it's going to be an amazing experience for you.
There's lots of amazing things can come from that, and I just experienced it.
Awesome. What was some of the other takeaways for you?
Well, we did the understanding the inauthentic self, and how your ego limits you, because it gets in the way of truth and heart and soul. I mean, that was what I was hearing, and to respond to that in my own personal relationship, my ego shows up all the time. I'm now accepting that. I'm aware of that, and it gets in the way of the love that can be shown. And you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid. Are you vulnerable? Yes. But if you're not vulnerable, you're not living.
So your authentic self is always there shining. The problem is that ego has walls around it, and it's protecting the authentic self from just being out and shining.
Yeah.
And so what we do is ego numbs us. It numbs our vulnerability, which is where our spirit's at. That's where our authentic self is, in the vulnerability. And I don't know what it's going to take to get more people to start seeing that vulnerability is a beautiful thing.
It's powerful.
And we have
strength.
we have to start teaching our kids how to be more vulnerable and allowing themselves. And what's so heartbreaking is to see kids in a training room, 6, 7, 8 years old, and we put them in these situations, and a lot of them are numb, cold, disconnected, shut down, robotic at 6 and 7 years old.
That's sad.
And then I'm seeing it in the training rooms with teenagers. They're just now hardened versions of those 6 or 7 year old shut down kids. I remember in training, I have this one exercise. It's called the bus, and I line the kids up, and I'll tell them, step off the bus to the right for crying, step off the bus to the left for laughing. And when I would say step off, 15 years ago it would be 50-50. Now it's 100% where kids are stepping off unhappy. And when I walk down the line, I go, why happy over sad, or why joy over crying? And they say, because I hate crying. And I'd go down the line, why'd you choose it? Because sad is a bad thing. I don't like to feel it. And what I've come to the conclusion is all of our insight and intuition and all of our wisdom is inside of our heart, and it's in our emotions, and it's in our vulnerability. And what's happening is kids nowadays more than ever are starting to decide for themselves that they don't want to feel pain anymore. They don't want to feel their emotions, so they shut down, and we start going to our head, and we start living up here, and we're not teaching our kids to live down here, which is all the emotional intelligence that we need to be successful.
It's so insightful. One of my questions was, being sad or unhappy, express them or keep them to yourself?
Absolutely express them. Express everything.
Isn't that interesting? That was the question. What do you do with it?
Express everything and be grateful for all of your experiences.
Without an expectation of what you're going to get back. You're expressing it because it's you.
Yes.
And you are in the moment with you.
That's right. And any feelings I'm having is an embodiment of who I am and what I'm about. It's a statement of where I'm at in this journey of my life and this stage. All your feelings and emotions, you should be grateful for them. You should see them as blessings. We live our life looking at what's right and wrong, what I should or shouldn't be doing. All those judgments, throw them out the window. Stop judging yourself and give yourself permission to feel whatever it is that you feel like feeling in that moment.
That way you can fill your bucket with joy.
That's what freedom feels like, is permission to feel and experience whatever I'm feeling at any given moment.
Well, this is going to be a lot of work, but like I said, I want it. I want it. I want to feel like
I'm excited for you.
Me too.
Well, that's all the time we have, but the good news is that we're here live every Friday at noon, except the next 2 weeks. I'm on vacation. Are you happy for me?
I'm really, really happy for you. Sad for me, but happy for you.
Yosemite with my family. It's a tradition.
Nice.
We love it. So
enjoy.
Thank you so much. Follow me on Facebook, Coach Alex Urbina. I'm also on Instagram and YouTube. Thanks for joining us on the Alex Urbina Radio Show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.